Jamin Davis. And Jamin Davis is a guy that I had no idea who he was coming into this process. I went into this process not really having prior knowledge of a lot of these players. And he was one of the guys that I looked at in this process and said, all right, let's see what you got. Kind of undersized. Where do you fit in the grand scheme of things? And I've talked about this already. I talked about it last night. I'm going to talk about it again. The league is changing as to what is required of NFL linebackers. And Jamin Davis is a guy that, to me, epitomizes that as we transition from front of his card to the back of his card and take a look at what he brings to the table. So the first thing is athleticism and speed. You know, if you're 6'4" and you're 224 pounds, you're a sub 230 pound linebacker, you damn sure better be able to run. And Jamin Davis can do exactly that. He's very, very rangy, man. You look at him. I mean, just look at him. The picture that you see in front of you, you watch him. He's long, man. Pause. He's a rangy guy. His limbs extend, which opens his tackle radius. Tremendous length, which helps him. And I don't think he utilizes it as much as he should in the stack and shed department. When you've got long arms like that, you use that to your advantage to keep offensive linemen off of you so that it's easier for you to disengage. I don't even think he's gotten to that point yet where he realizes how big of a strength that could be for him. He may ultimately get there. He may not. We'll see. He's got a lot of developing to do. Closing speed. Again, his biggest trait is his athleticism and speed. That's the thing that's going to get him to the league, and his ability to adapt and adjust is going to keep him in the league. If he can do that, he'll be around, just like the guy that I'm comping him to. But, man, again, another one of these guys, you give him space and opportunity, and he's there in a heartbeat. Can find the football. You know, for a guy his size, I try to go into these things. It's hard. I'm human. I try to go into these assessments with no preconceived notions. But when I look at 6'4", 224, I'm like, man, he ain't going to work in a run game. I just got a feeling. You know, I think about the SEC, and he's in the SEC East. So I think of Georgia, and I'm like, man, they're going to run it right at this guy, and they're not going to stop. And that's exactly what they did, okay? Their running back, I think his name's Kamir White or something like that, or whatever his name is, Kamir something. He had a career day against Kentucky. And part of the reason is because they were running the football at guys like Jamin Davis. That said, he can find the ball, man. You know, it's not always pretty. Like one play I watched him, he had no idea that he was going to end up in contact with the running back. He runs to the line of scrimmage. He makes contact with an offensive lineman. That guy pushes him. He bumps into another player. And then voila, the ball carrier's there. And he's like, oh, shit, got a tackle. And he slings him down to the ground. Like, he just has a knack for finding the ball. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But even around the line of scrimmage, he can find the ball. And part of the reason he can do that is he can contort and slither through gaps. You know, when you got that kind of frame, when you're 224 pounds and you're 6'4", that means you've got this long, lanky, angular frame, as you can see. I need you to be able to turn skinny. You're already skinny. Just turn sideways and find a way to make a play on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage, and he can do that. Physical upon contact. Again, you don't really always know what you're getting yourself into. He's physical upon contact. Like, he's a guy that comes with bad intentions. Now, part of the problem is he plays a little high. So, you know, low man wins. It's a little bit harder to get low and win the leverage battle when you're 6'4". But I still want you to break down, because if you're coming up looking to make tackles and you're high, you run the risk of getting your ass ran over. And I'm not saying that's what happened on tape, but there are a lot of times where he hits a guy and it turns into a square off where he's up straight, the guy he's trying to tackle is up straight, and now, it's all about who's got enough horsepower to either drive the guy back or, power forward. And you don't really want to get into one of those battles when you're 224 pounds. So I'd like him to be a little bit lower, but he's physical upon contact. I watched him a couple of times meet a guy in a hole, and it was a collision, man. It was a collision. He's comfortable in space and with his zone drops. That, to me, is his biggest strength right now, is that he can get into zone drops. He's comfortable in space. You can tell that he's a guy that is very adept at getting into his zone drops and keying quarterbacks' eyes. He's got a beautiful pick six against Tennessee where he's just watching the quarterback's eyes. Jarrett Garantino, who was trash, took him straight to the ball, and he had no problems picking it out of the air and then running it back 78 yards for a pick six. He had 3 picks. I watched all 3 of them in 2020, and it leads me to my final pro for him, and that's he's always around the ball. He's just always around the ball, and good things happen to those who find themselves around the football. And for me, Jamin Davis is always around the rock, and when you're around the ball, good things happen. And so I like that about him. Weaknesses, experience. We're talking about a guy that had 1 year of starting experience at Kentucky. So, he's played in 36 games. He's appeared in 36 games, but he's really only been a starter for essentially a season, maybe a season and a half. He was really the guy, this past year. He played, and what's crazy, I'm watching him. I'm watching the games, and there are possessions where he's not in. And, you see this all the time in college football, where they're trying to get guys, and, you get recruits and you make them promises. I'm going to get you on the field in your freshman year, or, you want guys to not enter the transfer portal. So, and, Jamin Davis may be on his way out. So you want to start grooming the next guy to take his place. And so you get those guys snaps in the game. Look, if my guy is a stud, I'm not taking him out of the game to worry about other guys getting reps. So that tells you how they felt about Jamin Davis, that he could be taken off the field. And you go 2 full possessions and he wouldn't be on the field, and then he just popped back up. So experience is a little bit of something that he's lacking. I think he needs more time to continue the season. But we'll see if he can get that or not. Size and angular frame is his next weakness. Obviously, I talked about that already. He's a tall, long, rangy guy. He's got an angular frame. That doesn't necessarily lend itself to being the most successful type of body type for the linebacker position. But in today's NFL, we're seeing that landscape change. So there is a place in the league for a Jamin Davis. And I would guess that he's going to put on weight. That I'm looking at his frame. He can definitely stand to put on, 10 to 12 more pounds of muscle and be just fine and not lose any of his speed nor athleticism. So I think that's something that can be improved upon. Give him 2 years in the league. Come back and talk to me. I bet you this kid's probably 6'4", 234, 235 or something like that, 232. Lacks decisiveness at times. This kind of goes back to my first weakness, experience. The more you've seen it, the more you've experienced it, the more film you watch, the less indecisive you are. You see it, you hit it, you go. He's not there yet. So he hesitates, and he who hesitates is last. And when you're 224 pounds, you can't hesitate. You can't afford to. You got to beat that offensive lineman. You got to beat that pulling guard. You've got to beat that lineman coming off of that double team to the spot. You can't afford to wait, or else you're going to get blocked. You're going to get pinned. You're going to get sealed. And you saw that from him at times where he just took too long. to make a decision on shooting his gun. And by the time he decides, well, now here comes a guard coming off of a double team up to the second level, and he doesn't have a chance. Not adept at sorting through traffic. Not yet. He's a guy that can get caught in the wash very easily, doesn't sort through the garbage that you find yourself entangled in as a linebacker a lot of times. Once you get to the line of scrimmage, there's a lot of bodies. Some on your team, some not on your team. You've got to sift your way through that. You've got to be able to scrape your way down the line and get to the ball carrier. He's not there yet. So for me, that's something else that he'll have to continue to develop at the next level if he wants to be on the field on all three downs, because right now I just see him as a guy that you feel comfortable bringing in obvious passing situations because of his coverage ability. Right now, I have him projected as a mid-round selection. I feel like he's a fifth-round pick more so than a fourth-round pick at this point. But the athleticism is definitely there. Someone could see him as a guy that they want to get their hands on, and I could see him being selected in the fourth. But he's more of a fifth-round selection for me. My comp for him is Jordan Evans, the former Oklahoma Sooner that was selected in like the sixth or seventh round a few years ago by the Cincinnati Bengals. I remember watching Jamin Davis, and first person that popped in my head was Jordan Evans. Same body type, same skill set when he came into the league. A guy that could pick off passes, great in his zone drops, fluid out in space, not necessarily the best in the run game, but not afraid by any stretch of the imagination. I see all of those qualities in Jamin Davis, and I think much like a guy like Jordan Evans, who has put on weight since he's gotten in the league. I think he's now up into his 230s. When he came into the league, he was in the 220s. I think Jamin Davis at some point is going to put on weight as well. So Jamin Davis, my 11th rated linebacker in this draft.
Louie.